Your friends are scrolling through short content, but you, my friend, you're here to learn. Welcome to TRS Clips. Let's begin in ancient times, because that's all I know about this whole Israel conflict, that it's actually hundreds of thousands of years old. You have to understand what happened then to truly understand what happened now. So I'll let you take it forward from here.
Bingo. Yeah. But it starts off with A, we will not acknowledge Israel. B, Israel is a colonial construct. We are the original inhabitants, and Israel is a colonial construct. Therefore, we can't recognize it. And you are basically, it's like asking an Indian to say, you should accept British rule of India in perpetuity. See, it isn't. And this is where the history comes in, bad history comes in, which we'll discuss in the history section whenever you want to go there. Mm-hmm. So their arguments, I've never come across a cogent pro-Palestinian argument that is actually pro-Palestinian and anti-Hamas. There is always this equivalence. I think the best thing the Palestinians can do is follow Gandhi, because then there would be absolutely no moral equivalence. And this was the genius of Gandhi. He found the perfect tool, civil disobedience and peaceful protest, against a state that was based, the British Empire was based on the rule of law. Okay? Israel is a state based on the rule of law. The only reason Israel has gotten as much as it can is because the Palestinians never completely renounce violence. I mean, you can see the videos. In English, he'd say, we want peace. In Arabic, he'd be telling people, go kill a few Jews, bomb them, this and that, etc., etc. This is not the way nonviolence works. Either nonviolence is absolute or it doesn't exist, right? And this is again Gandhi calling off the non-cooperation movement because of what happened. The Chauri Chaura, I think that was the police.
They burnt
they burnt the police station, and he called the entire thing off. Because see, there can be no, I am peaceful, but him burning cops, I'm not going to condemn it. I'm just going to pretend that wasn't me. That was also me, right? So this externalization, and not just externalization, also refuse to condemn. You have to understand their victims. That is why they went and killed those 1,400 settlers, as they call them. They won't even refer to them as Israelis. They won't even refer to them as somebody who has a right to be out there. Okay? After 70 years, boss, how long do you need to become local? Okay? How long do you want to be called a refugee? I don't get it. I really don't get it. What do you do? And then there is Palestine's own extremely difficult history with its neighbors. You can also claim that Palestine is a colonial construct. Again, we'll come to that. But then you look at how the Palestinians have treated their own neighbors. In 1973, when the Yom Kippur War happened and Israel seized the whole of the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, the Sinai Peninsula is about 2-3 times the size of Israel. So Israel suddenly became a country that was 3 times its previous size, if not more. In 1979, in return for peace, they gave the entire territory back to Egypt. Okay, in return for peace. The one piece that was not given back was Gaza. And you know why? It's because the Egyptian president at the time, Anwar al-Sadat, he did not want Gaza back. It was too problematic for him, and the population there was too problematic for him to deal with. He did not want it back. He said, please keep it. I don't want it. So what will happen is, in 1967, Israel conquered the whole of the Sinai Peninsula, and they conquered Gaza as well, which had been Egyptian till then. And so Israel became 3 times its size, because Sinai plus Gaza is at least twice the size of Israel. So Israel became 3 times its size. In 1973, after the Yom Kippur War, the Egyptians decided to start talking to the Israelis. And in 1979, peace was achieved, where Israel gives up 66% of the territory under its control. You tell me, assume Israel had annexed Sinai and it was one country now. Who gives up 2/3 of their territory to make peace? Well, it wasn't their territory, but assume it was. They gave it up. Okay. It was giving back to the Egyptians what was theirs. Why? Because we've signed a peace deal. Okay. Anwar al-Sadat, the president in 1979, did not want back Gaza. Even though Gaza had been under Egyptian control till 1967, he did not want it back because the problem, it was a highly radicalized, problematic strip of land. Okay. The same thing happened in Jordan. In Jordan, when the partition of Palestine happens in 1948, Jordan annexes the West Bank, what is today called the West Bank. The poor man, King Hussein, had to suffer so much trouble because of it, because there were repeated Palestinian attempts to overthrow him, kill him, and overtake the state of Jordan, to take over Jordan from its monarch. Okay. In Lebanon, people don't want to talk about the fact how Palestinian refugees, effectively because of the demographic change it brought about in Lebanon, were the cause of the civil war that shattered that country forever. Beirut used to be called the Paris of the Levant, the Paris of the East. That Paris of the East no longer exists. Why? Because of a Palestinian demographic change out there, because they radicalized that area. It wasn't just going there and settling down. It was carrying out terror attacks. I want everybody to Google the Black September attacks in Jordan, where they attempted to overthrow the king of Jordan. Everybody needs to Google what the PLO did in Lebanon. And how has their behavior as refugees in somebody else's country been exemplary? Should they be punished for it back home? No. But should there be introspection? Yes. There has to be some introspection somewhere. And then again, what happens in 2005? Now, there was a government of Yitzhak Rabin and Shimon Peres who signed the deal with the PLO, with Yasser Arafat, and made what is called the Oslo peace process and everything. What happens with that, which creates the kernel of the independent, what was meant to become the independent Palestinian state, the West Bank plus Gaza? And what ends up happening is Yitzhak Rabin is killed by a Jewish fundamentalist. He's succeeded by his foreign minister, Shimon Peres, who was crucial to making that peace. Guess who scuttled Shimon Peres? Shimon Peres was a man wedded to peace. He wanted more than anything else to see two countries at peace with each other and at peace with their neighbors. He was moving towards peace. What did the Palestinians do? They started suicide bombing of commuter buses in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, in which 50, 70, 80 people would die. And these aren't big numbers in India. For Israel, which is just 7 million, India is 200 times that. So 70 people dead in a suicide bombing in Jerusalem
dead in India
is 1,400 dead in India. Would India respond to something like that or not? Any country would respond to that kind of numbers, right? Fine. Yitzhak Rabin was killed by a Jewish extremist. But then why did you carry out terror bombings against a guy who was committed to a two-state solution? Anyway, it set the entire thing back. That was the end of that particular phase. Then, particularly what they consider, the incarnation of the devil, a guy called Ariel Sharon becomes prime minister. He wants to show again his bona fides and say, if you give me peace, the deal was land for peace. If you give me peace, I will give you land. And Gaza at this time had lots of Israeli kibbutzes that were the main source of employment in that region.
What is a kibbutz?
A kibbutz is like a collective. It's like a co-op society, right?
Community.
A community, yeah. A community of settlers, pioneers who are going there, making it green, setting up agriculture or production or whatever out there. So he dismantles all these Jewish collective societies, forcibly drags all of them back, and he's showing, look, I am willing to do for you what we did with Egypt in 1979, which is dismantle everything from the Gaza Strip and give you your independence. Okay? And this is now held up to the West Bank saying, look, we did it in Gaza. We've withdrawn everything. We're not even negotiating about. So you'll keep hearing the Palestinians say, oh, they're going on building settlements, more settlements, and they're annexing more land. Everything is up for negotiation. But see, it's a carrot and stick policy. Now, you can't say a negotiation is always going to be static. Okay. So if I'm negotiating with you today, think of it purely as a business transaction. Okay. assume I'm in the position of advantage here. You desperately need something. Let's assume this isn't the Ranveer Allahbadia podcast, okay? And I am some major famous podcaster, and I'm a really good-looking young guy, and you're this bald, fat, ugly gay man, two-bit nothing, who's coming to me for a favor, okay? I will say, Ranveer beta dekh, I will give you a 2-hour podcast. And you'll say, no. And we get into a dispute and you come back. The next time round, I'm going to say, I'm not going to give you a 2-hour podcast. I'm going to give you a 1.5-hour podcast. You aren't happy with that. You go back, and when you come back the next time, you're only going to get a 1-hour podcast. Right? I'm simplifying it for our viewers because in this context, it's understandable. Yeah. Now, when you know that this is the pattern of negotiation, you settle for the 1.5-hour podcast. Right? And this is how Israeli carrots and sticks works. You make peace with us now, or else you'll keep losing more and more and more land. That doesn't mean that land is permanently lost to you, but you better sit down and negotiate with us, because we need to finish this separation of the two states now. Okay.
So one second, the solution-oriented mindset is Israel's. That's what you're saying.
And it used to be Israel's, and then the Palestinians were so intransigent that you now have Netanyahu, who is not pro. In word, he is pro a two-state solution, but in action, he is not pro a two-state solution.
In action, what is he?
In action, he wants Israeli occupation of West Bank to continue. Well, they're not in occupation of West Bank technically, but he wants more and more land to be taken up by settlers. So he's more stick, less carrot. Okay. But who do you blame when one side refuses to negotiate in good faith and they assume tough negotiation is bad faith? Tough negotiation is not bad faith negotiation. Let's be clear about this. You can't just say, let's make peace and you're going to get everything you want. That's not the way things work. Maybe in a fairy tale, La La Land, in Alice in Wonderland, that's how it works. That's not how it works in real life. For example, you did not get your full 2-hour broadcast with me. You had to settle for a 1.5-hour podcast with me, the famous Abhijit Iyer-Mitra, young, fit, with a full lock of hair, as opposed to this fat, bald, ugly gay man who's a nobody in the world of podcasting. Okay. What do you do in that case? See, for a negotiation to continue, you have to have carrots and sticks. But it's turned into a government that probably doesn't want the two-state solution out here. So the Palestinians are now stuck. Now, there are several ways of breaking the impasse. None of them involves terror. Because terror just brings about more sticks and less carrots. So it's actually atrocious negotiation. It's atrocious policy planning. The Palestinians are straddled with really bad leaders. And for a lot of Israeli hawks, their greatest allies are the Palestinian leadership, both Hamas and Fatah. Because the foreign minister of Israel was a guy called Abba Eban. He was very famous for his wisecracks, and he used to say the Palestinians never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. If there's a way to screw up, they will screw up. What is that law called? If things can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law. So this is the Murphy's Law. Geopolitical Murphy Law should be called the Abba Eban Law, which is Palestinians never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity.
Okay.
Mind you, I'm not saying the Israelis are all hunky-dory nice. They're tough, nasty bastards negotiating like really tough people. But look, I mean, why are you... You're a bureaucracy of a democratically elected state. You are not elected for being Mother Teresa. You're not trained as a bureaucrat for being Mother Teresa. You are trained to protect every single inch and give as little as possible. Okay? It is when one side's strategy keeps succeeding and the other side's negotiation strategy keeps failing. Whose fault is it? Ultimately, it's a failing side that has to introspect and come up with a new strategy. No, it's been the same strategy over and over again. No change in the strategy. No change in violence. No change in negotiation. They know tomorrow some more Palestinian land in the West Bank is going to be seized and new settlements are going to come up. And they will still refuse to be happy with what they have.
So this is a never-ending problem?
It's a never ending.
I mean, that's what history also tells us, that it's quite literally,
It literally is.
never-ending.
Yeah.
So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you check out this playlist for more videos just like this. It's TRS Clips.